Hi, Shawn. This is the first time we're doing the webinar this way with you. So, because you're a frequent visitor with us. Um, Please, do you want to do the introduction? Or you want me to do the introduction?
I can do the introduction. Thank you so much for everyone joining today. Today, we're going to be discussing how to scale your personal injury law firm with CEO Hamid Kohan and personal injury attorney Shawn Sasooness.
Great. Thank you. This always becomes a question about, especially personal injury, especially in California. How do I scale? And there is no one magic pill or magic thing that you can do to do it. There's this variety of different things that can help you, assist you to get to scale your law practice. And I've been working with Shawn Sasooness since he started his practice, and it's been one of the perfect examples of how you systematically scale your law practice. It has its challenges, it has its time and resources it requires to do it. It is definitely doable, and Shawn is here as a proof of concept that it is very doable, but it's not as easy as just you buy into it and it gets done. So a little bit about the Legosoft. We are provider of a solution for a legal industry. Our focus is entirely a legal industry. We're one of the largest provider of virtual staffing. That is a trained, dedicated virtual staff that are placed as full-time staff within the law firms. We train them, they become like an employee, but is low cost, and it covers a variety of different practice types, and it ranges from intake staff to case managers, document collections, demand writers, and all the way to remote attorneys who can help with litigation matters as far as the paralegal and the discovery work goes. We cover most practice areas, but in more of a personal injury, employment, workers' comp, immigrations, those are some of the more popular practices that we cover. And we now actually it says 650. We are over 750 law firms that we work with. We have physical offices in 8 countries. The 5 is mentioned here as established offices that we recruit, train, deploy, and help manage the virtual staff from the global locations to be able to draw from global resources. And this is one of the first challenge of scaling the practice, is having a trained, dedicated, affordable staff that you can scale based on. Is a number one challenge for any law practice. It doesn't matter if it's a solo practitioner starting and hiring their first person, all the way to multi-state large law firm who has 500 staff. They still have exact same challenge, finding trained, dedicated, affordable legal staff to be able to scale the law practice. And I'm sure Shawn would elaborate on that as we get into that. Most of our locations are in South America because we need a lot of bilingual resources. So we source them from those locations. We go anywhere from Philippines to Ecuador and Colombia and so forth. And thus we have physical offices that we do this sourcing from. We also provide other services like law practice growth, marketing, client generations. We essentially one-stop shop for the law practices to start and then scale and grow as we move forward. A little bit about my background. I'm really a tech guy from Silicon Valley. I spent 20 years there, developing several high-tech companies from early days, and then moved to Southern California. After Silicon Valley did the same thing with the legal industry, so sort of business development, creating some new ventures. And about 7 years ago, I came across a legal industry that I noticed there is a lot of room for expansion, growth, and using technology and innovation that comes from a Silicon Valley mentality to apply it to the legal industry. And I was lucky enough to meet several great people within this industry that I started working with. And trying to guide them into scaling the law practices and how to restructure, grow, and scale. And that's how I became acquainted with Shawn Sasooness. So I let Shawn take it from here and tell us a little bit about himself and how I got started.
Thanks. Thanks, Hamid. Good to see you. Good to be here with you. It's usually in person. Yeah, my name is Shawn Sasooness. I am owner and managing attorney of Sasooness Law Group. We're a law firm that specializes in accidents and injuries. That is our main focus. We represent the people all throughout the state of California. For now, there are some talks about expansion into other states because California is just becoming more and more saturated and difficult. But that is what I do.
Great. Among many other things that relates to the practice, a lot of different challenges.
Yeah,
So
there are a bunch of details that we could get into, but
absolutely.
in a nutshell, I help injured people get paid.
Right. And get the most value out of their cases and being compensated properly. So one of the first things that me and Shawn started working with, Shawn started basically completely from solo, and completely on his own. He started his practice, and it was very important to create a foundation for the practice. And it took a lot of discussion, it took a lot of disciplines, and building the team, building the infrastructure, building the foundation. Shawn has probably heard me say a million times about infrastructure, the setup, the foundation. And it's easy to hear, is difficult to implement, but it is required from day one. And most law firms, or my basic assessments of the law firm is that when attorneys comes out, I happen to have 2 kids in law school, so I completely understand where this goes. When an attorney comes out, they don't know, and they haven't been taught through school, through experience, about many aspects of the building a business, building a practice. Is like the HR, finance, accounting, marketing, online presence, relationship management, technology, IT, automation. You don't learn any of that in law school. And no law firm you go to do internship or clerkship ain't going to teach you any of that either. So now you finish law school, you work somewhere for a couple of years or more, and then you come out, and the only thing you bring in with you is how to practice law. And even that is in the very early stages of it, because that also has its own growth and expansion and learning path. So it gets very lost when now you're taking that and now you want to make it into a business. It gets very complicated very fast. And that's why you have to have a foundation, how to align your goals and your KPIs and the team building, staffing, budgeting, timelines. So you don't take 6 months to develop your website, or you don't take 5 months to find an assistant and things like that. So it's very important to have a plan. So I turn this to Shawn, and using his experience going through this, because he's been extremely disciplined and structured to do this, and that is one of the key factors to his success, above and beyond his own talent and dedication to the practice, but is creating and following, and he can express his feedback on how he did it and what tools he used and what recommendation he has on the foundation for the growth.
I think that's the most important thing. And exactly, you come out of law school, you know the law. Very few firms, it's usually very few firms have like the structure and hierarchy and running a law firm like a good, well-oiled machine, where you're not involved, or it doesn't take you to do every little thing in your firm. If it takes you to do every little thing within the firm, then you're only going to be able to do so much because you're so limited. So I think very few firms do that, and they don't teach you that in law school. Then when you try to do that, even if you have that mindset, okay, I need to do this, this, and that. Let's say you worked for big law and you see how that works. But then when you go and try to implement it yourself, exactly, even if you know what it is, one of the hardest things to do as a lawyer and, starting your own firm, especially when it comes down to legal work, it's like so sensitive. You want to do it a certain way. It's being able to delegate that and build a system where other people could do it, but there is a structure, a foundation. There is a standard in which it's done without you having to review every single thing. And it all starts with the foundation of the firm. It starts with you from the beginning. If you start your firm, it should be by yourself, or if you have it with partners or partner, and you're doing everything from the beginning the way it should be done. Then what you got to do is kind of take that and, memorialize it, make a process out of it. So then you could delegate that and pass it on to somebody else so you could focus on the next thing. And that's what foundation, when you build a foundation, when I think about building a foundation, it literally starts with how you communicate with clients, templates that you have in your firm, how you communicate with opposing counsel via email, how you issue checks, whatever it is, whatever you do, you have to do it first. Then you kind of memorialize that, make that a standard in the firm, and pass it on to people to take it from there so you could focus on the next thing. That's what foundation is.
Great, exactly, well put. And I think whenever me and you talk about a new practice or new any kind of a new venture, the first thing we talk about, so what's the foundation of this thing going to look like before we even go to the next conversation? Is like, what's the foundation? What's the goals? What's the objectives? What's the plan? What's the budget? What do we need? How long? All of that is just goes from the foundation. Well put. So so now let's say you set it up, you started just like we did with you. You started your practice, you got your few cases, usually comes in from referrals and friend and family. That's sort of like everybody gets fed first by this first few friends and family and colleagues giving you cases, which is a good start, but it doesn't make a practice because that dries up really quick, really fast, because the next guy comes out and opens up their practice, they're going to get them now. And on and on. So it's also like in the finance industry, they call it the seed money. So this is like a seed cases that comes in, and then now you got to have a plan. Again, how do I'm going to get client, and I'm going to build my client base. And that's where you have a laundry list of places to work on and to draw on to be able to get your next client and then grow it and continuously do it. So please share with us how that process worked for you, because I know you're active in a variety of different platforms, lead generations, client retentions, client referrals. I mean, content, this and that, and you're very active on that. But again, you have a plan, you have a structure that you follow. So tell us about how you scaled this part by gaining, hundreds of clients that you have gained on a regular basis. How did you do that?
Yeah. First of all, I love the language from the finance world and, corporate Silicon Valley, seed money. I always love that language because it's so applicable to scaling your firm and your business. To this day, when you and I meet, some of that conversation is, I need more cases. Where can I get more clients? It's the constant question that will probably never change. If there is one constant, it's where can I get more cases? Where can I get more clients? And exactly, when you first start, it should be the cheapest way possible. When you start, that's the free way. Friends, families, every restaurant you go to, slip your little business card into that check when you pay. Every Uber, Lyft you get into, give them your business card. It starts with the cheapest ways, but then if you're content with that, fine. But if you want to scale your firm, then you take that and you go on to the next thing. The next cheapest way, social media, put posts up. So it's not just people you're with directly in contact with, but you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have hundreds of people from back in college and high school that follow you on Facebook and Instagram, post videos so they know what you do. From there, it goes on to paid ads. Then look at companies, marketing companies that do advertising for you, SEO. So it's always start with the cheapest way. But if you want to scale, you got to look at all these different avenues and you got to try them. Like we talk about it all the time. It's like you try one marketing thing, you're basically throwing money at it, especially in PI. Now, I think it's like this with most fields, but with PI, where it's so competitive, you try one avenue, like let's work with this company, throw money, let's see if it sticks. Nope, there goes 10,000. That didn't work out. Okay, let's go to the next. Damn, that one's stuck. They're good. Go with them. So you're just trying these until you have the ones, you have all these different sources of getting clients and cases.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You absolutely pointed out that what they need to be doing to be actively growing with. By the way, to that point that you said that everybody's looking for the case from, I get a lot of people coming through, and the first thing they do is so how do I get clients? I mean, it doesn't matter from somebody who just passed the bar yesterday to a large firm that I know and I work with is like, they sign up about 700 cases a month in PI, and they even hand out about 200 of them to other firms to go do. The first thing it starts with our conversation. They ask me, so do you know any other new ways that I can get clients? I'm like, you get 700 a month and you pass on 200 of them, and you still, your first question is like, hi, Hamid, how are you doing? Where can I get more cases? It's like
never-ending question.
A never-ending question. And I don't think he really even needs it, but he asks anyway because it's just part of the system. But one of the things about the client base increase, again, you know what to do and you're doing it, but I just want to make the audience understand that this is, again, nothing that attorney should be doing himself or herself. It needs to be done. It needs to be set up. It needs to be planned, budgeted, all of that. But then you need people who specialize in these things to do it. And I know on the startup, nobody can afford to go get a marketing team or get a 4-people team to do social media and then email marketing and newsletters and SMS marketings and all of that. But you need to have it. And there are solutions out there to help you do this affordably. So you don't waste your time trying to make your own website or make your own post. Your job is the talent. You need to create the content and the directions and the plan. Then you got to let people, like, in Legosoft, we do have that service. There is a practice growth solution that most everything that Shawn talked about, we do it as a full service for less than $2,000 a month. So you need to learn and have a discipline of having somebody do this stuff for you under your guidance, reviews, directions, and all of that. But it all needs to be done. It all needs to be done inexpensively, routinely, not when you have a time, some Sunday afternoon that you can actually make a post or build a referral network or anything like that. Systematically on a regular basis, just like you get up and go to work, that systematically needs to be done. And Shawn is very aware of that. And he's basically focusing on creating the content, directions, exploring new marketing areas, new lead generation areas, but not spending his time actually doing it. That's the fault of a lot of startup attorneys who trying to be the bookkeeper and the accountant and the social media post person and the case manager and the intaker and the lawyer. You can't succeed like that. Okay. So the next part is when we talked about expanding your client base, share with us some of those activities that you do that we always talk about expanding your network, developing more referral networks, both for outbound and inbound, and how you nurture those relationships. I always use in my talks in the conferences, I always talk about how attorneys are sort of entitled about the incoming referrals. I always use this example that you have this friend that every year on your birthday sends you a $20,000 Rolex watch as a gift. Every year you're getting this. And when you get this friend becomes pretty special. And you don't just call him once a year and say, hey, thanks, John. It was a great gift. We'll see you next year. You really nurture that relationship, try to expand on it, try to appreciate it, try to build it up, use it as a reference, all that stuff. Attorneys don't do that in general. And they take it for granted that they have this referral source, that being a body shop or medical provider or other attorneys or other places that they get these referrals from. They take it for granted that they should be doing this. It's great that they're doing this. Okay, I send them a thank you letter once a year. But any one case that they refer to you has a huge value, financial value it has, and you need to appreciate and expand on it and grow it like your life depends on it in a way. But not sort of say, well, yeah, I think this John guy from San Francisco sends me a couple of cases a month, and thanks, John. No, it needs to be a lot more in depth. So I let Shawn explore some of that because he does a lot of networking, relationship building, and appreciating the referral sources. That has a key point of his success in his law practice. So I let him elaborate on that.
Yeah, you said it exactly the way it is. And I've learned that the hard way in many ways. It's the follow, and I just don't think a lot of attorneys now are as good at it. I've been practicing for 10 years now. I haven't been practicing for 15, 20 years, but when I started practicing, depositions were not all remote, court appearances were not all remote. It was right before that shift, like for a good 4 or 5 years, everything was in person. These webinars were not a thing. Like, this would happen in person, and you would register and you would go somewhere and they would hold this seminar. So that really helped face-to-face relationship building, and and you would do a lot of that. It's changed a lot, but it's the same concept. You still connect with people the same way. I think the benefit to it is you could connect with a lot more people through social media, through this webinar, connecting with me, other people. But the whole idea is maintaining that relationship, recognizing your good relationships. Not everyone is going to be, a great relationship, but really, it to their benefit, to your benefit. It's just like a friendship. Recognizing those relationships, and nurturing them, giving them some tender, loving care, being on top of it, because those 1, 2, 3, 4, multiple of those add up. Whether it's another attorney and personal injury, it's about connecting with some doctors' offices, other businesses that you go work with together. So very important. You made all the points, and I think a lot of it comes down to, people may even know this, but it's one, the discipline of doing it and how to follow through with it. I think that's the bigger question, because some people may not know this, but most people know how important it is, but they don't take it as seriously and they don't do it the way they should. But really focusing on that and actually doing it, I think, is a big difference.
They don't have the discipline and the structure. I use this example again. When I tell somebody to go to another large PI firm and ask them for referrals, because all the large PI firms have hundreds of outbound referrals that they want to do, they have to do it, you work with them. And I say, you go over there, and the first thing you ask is, say, hey, John, my name is Shawn. Just started my practice. I appreciate some referrals. And the guy says, sure, absolutely, whatever. And you walk out. And then they think they sealed the deal. They don't know there is 20 more people right after them go to the same meeting and get the same answer. And
You're
it's
right.
like, yeah, sure, you too, you too, you too. So what made you stand out to actually get something out of that visit, that call, that networking, that made you a difference? So I tried it out with a few of my clients where I said, I want you to go to these 5 law firms tomorrow, and I know what their favorite drinks is. So walking with a bottle, I'm telling you, And just introduce yourself and don't ask for anything. Don't ask for referrals. Don't ask for follow-up. Don't ask for anything. I just want to introduce myself and let you, I just started my practice and I just want to reach out and connect. They did that. And the feedback was amazing, where now they stood up on this managing attorney of this larger law firm saying that, look, Shawn came in, he brought me my favorite drink, and he didn't ask anything of me. He didn't ask for anything. Wow, that's impressive. I want to work with that guy, you know, versus this other 19 people who followed in and said, hey, John, I really appreciate you can send me some referral cases that you don't want. It's like everybody's asking for the same thing, obviously. So that makes a big difference. And then doing the follow-up, even on the follow-ups, not asking for specific favors, you know, just being connected. And nobody ever loses on building a network because it's not that costly. It doesn't have maintenance costs per se. So every network is beneficial.
You know, it's something that I teach my intake team, and it relates to clients, and it's about to sign up clients. We kind of have something that we follow. They gotta know you, like you, trust you. First, they gotta know you. Hey, this is so-and-so calling from Sasooness Law Group. This is what we do. Okay, you're part of a law firm. They gotta like you. You got to be able, you can't just be mono, you can't be a robot on the phone when you're asking them, okay, what happened in your case here? What happened? So you got to have personality. You got to connect with them. They got to like you. Then at that point, they'll trust you to sign with you. I think it's the same thing. You want to build that relationship with people, get to know them, reach out to them, go see them face to face, hit them up a few times. So they get to know you first. You bring them a bottle. Oh, I like this person. You kind of follow up. Hey, enjoy that bottle. Let's have a drink together sometime. Okay, yeah, I like this person. Cool person. Then they begin to trust you and they start sending you referrals. So that kind of reminds me of that. Which,
right, because they already know why you're there for. So
exactly.
you don't need to say it. You know,
at some point you got to ask for cases though, right?
They will actually the ones that I've seen work, they actually offer it to you because they know why you're there for. You're not just there because you have plenty of time on your hand and you're just going around town distributing bottle of booze.
Yeah.
So they know you're there to build a relationship so you can get referrals from them. But if it's much better not said, at least not on the first date and the second date, you know, try to ask on the third date, but not on the first date. It's a turnoff.
It's a third date thing.
Yeah. Is it definitely a first date turn off to say, can I have some cases now?
Yeah. Doing things that you kind of stand out, and that makes you stand out.
So this is another topic I think me and you talk about regularly in our consultation meetings every week, is constant streamlining operation, enhancing efficiency. Because end of the day, you need to be profitable. End of the day, you need to know your cost of client acquisition, your cost of operations, your gross profit margin, your net profit margin. It's one of those topics that nobody ever teaches you anywhere, from law school, from family business, from colleagues, or just nobody does, unless you're in a very structured, well-founded, well-staffed organizations. Again, it goes back to the technology era where everything is about profit margins. Nobody's winging anything. So this is what we always talk about from the entire process. And some of your success that I been very proud of to be part of it is like how we find out from streamlining the process, bringing average time to sell the pre-lit case from like 9 months to 4 months, which is a huge saving when you're saving 3 months per case of an overhead cost. So please tell us a little bit more about how you streamline, how you continuously increase efficiency and enhancing it, and how that has been a part of your scaling.
I think this is probably, next to getting cases, this is probably the most important thing for scaling your firm and the most challenging thing. Some people, it's very challenging. First, you got to know what the hell you're doing. I didn't know what I was doing. You know, we would have these discussions very early on. Okay, you know, streamlining and all this stuff, but How? In what way? I remember we would talk about, you had other attorneys and firms that have been, this was a few years ago, even now probably, that come to you and they're like, have 1,000 plus cases, and you would ask them about certain things and they either didn't know or they're kind of still winging things. Okay, can it be done, but is it the most efficient way to do it? So my point is, it's really challenging, I think, for a lot of people, one, knowing what to do, how to do it, and actually doing it. But I think it's the most important thing. Everything that we do in the firm. So you're kind of talking about two different things. One is kind of streamlining everything you do within the practice. Then two, it's kind of like keeping an eye on, your profit margins, or, think your KPIs and things like that. But in terms of streamlining, and how it relates to kind of scaling your practice, is everything that we do, if it's something that's going to happen again, we make a process out of it and we kind of have a standard. I was just talking about it this morning with my office manager. We're talking about the closing process of our cases. I've noticed some things are being done that, I didn't know that was being done. So it's like, okay, I want to know exactly what we do for our closing process when a case closes, put it down on a piece of paper. Let's fix it, organize it. This is going to be the way that we do things moving forward on every single case. That's streamlining your practice, from intake to how the case is passed on to the legal team, to that first communication with the client, how the case is handled throughout the case, and how the case is ultimately closed. Whatever it is, if it's going to happen more than once, streamline it. So
Absolutely. It's a thing that I always ask, and this I ask is continuously after working with you for 4 or 5 years. I still say, know your numbers. You need to know your numbers, and the numbers are like this: is like, what's your exact cost of client acquisition? I don't know. Almost everybody I work with said, I don't know. I think is a couple of $2,000-$3,000 or something. Well, that doesn't work. Then know what's the total number of cases your case manager can handle effectively and efficiently. I don't know, between 70 to 150. No, the number is 85. You need to know your number. What's the average time to sell a pre-lead on MVA cases in California? You need to know that. You can't say, I think about a year. No, it should be between 4 to 6 months. If it's a year, you're losing a lot of money. Again, what's your average fees, average time, average number of people per cases, all this stuff. And nobody knew the answers. And by the way, that's why it triggered for me when I wrote the book about all of this stuff to try to fix it and correct it. I call it the How to Scale Your Stupid Law Firm, because every single question I ask, they don't have an answer for. So that's what made it stupid, is about not having those numbers. Yeah. Not that they're not smart or they're not hardworking or they're dedicated, nothing like that. But you need to know your numbers. If you don't, you can't manage or improve anything.
We were just talking about this. My CPA was asking me, he wanted to know like a certain number of, it's like what your, you were telling me what it was. What is it where it's like how much you're paying per case? It's like your net profit. Like
yes. So your gross margin is the fee that you collect from your case. So you get 40%, so you got $4,000 there. Okay, from a $10,000 fee. But how much of that was the cost of client acquisition, and how much of it is the average overhead spent on each case during the process of pre-litigation process of that case to settlement?
Yeah.
So you say, I paid $2,000 for it, and I spent $1,000 worth of overhead bring it to settlement, so I have $1,000 net profit.
Yeah.
But if you don't know those numbers, you'll have no idea what your profitability is like.
Yeah, like he was talking to me about it. He's like, I want to get your like net profit margin percentage. I want to get it to this percent. Basically, at the end of the day, what your bottom line net is. But the point I want to make about, and it was interesting, it's like, okay, what is it now? Okay, it's at this percent. I want to get this a lot lower. And I was telling you what I want to get it at. You're like, I don't know if that's possible in PI. But it's like, okay, well, shoot for the stars, land on the moon. maybe we could get it. But my point that I want to make, in order to be able to do something like that, you need to know everything in between. And to your point, using technology as much as possible, you need to know exactly how much every case is costing you, exactly how long it's in your firm, exactly what your overhead is every single month, exactly what your average settlement. So only by knowing that will you be able to know what this bottom line number is and say, I want this to be better. What do I have to do to get there?
Yeah, and your best proof of a concept is yours, where you followed all of this. You reduce the time of the settlement, you reduce your cost of overhead with technology, with tracking, with paying attention, and you achieved all of this. I always said when I started into the legal industry, I said, it appears to me that the attorneys only have two happy days in their practice: the day that they get a client and the day they get a check. This can't go on because it's not manageable. You need to be happy along the way, saying that my cost per case was 2,000, I brought it down to 1,500. My time to settle a case was a year, now I can do it in 6 months. I used to use 15 staff to handle this many cases, I reduced it to 10 staff. I mean, those are all the happy moments you need to have within your practice, not just, oh, damn, I have a great day, I just got this case, and then, damn, I just got this check. And it became sort of a thing, it's like two happy moments.
Yeah.
But there could be many, many happy moments within your practice when you are making it more efficient, more productive, and more numerically oriented.
Yeah.
So we have a question. So someone asked, how do you recommend for a smaller firm to reach out to a bigger firm to build and nurture and establish a referral relationship?
Like I said in the beginning of it, and Shawn can confirm this, is be different, be don't like others, be persistent. They need to see you or hear from you 2-3 times. Don't think that you just walked in this place or send this email or send this connection request in LinkedIn. You've done your duty. No, your duty is to build a relationship. It's almost like when you want to date somebody, you just don't say, oh, I'm available, and then you expect the dates line up. It doesn't work like that. You have to chase it. You have to know the strategy, get to know who is that you're going after, which school they went to, what they like, what they don't like. You're basically looking for somebody to have a relationship with, so you have to invest in it. And make sure right up front, like you said, you don't ask for something right away that everybody else comes to ask for.
Yeah. I think there are a few different ways. Everything that we're talking about, just like hitting somebody up, going to their office, doing something that stands out, then if you follow up a couple times and they have cases to refer you, they're going to refer you a couple cases. It's a fact. And even if it's a couple that gets you off their back, as long as they like you, they kind of got to like you. And so you do something different, they'll like you. Then from there, just following through and maintaining that relationship, I think it's a great way to start a practice.
There's one more secret too about that when you have resources for this.
And I know what it is.
Yeah, people like to know their status. So if I'm the law firm and I just gave you a case, and I'm just like wondering, I wonder what happened to that guy. I gave him that case, I think it was like a year ago. I haven't heard anything back. I hate that. You need to call them and say, look, John, this case that you gave me, thank you. Everything is going really well. I already sent the demand out. I already have an offer. I'm taking it to litigation. And they will appreciate that more than what they're going to get financially from that referral. Because
100%.
they know you cared, they know you're on top of it. You didn't just grab and run, and you're actually engaged. That makes them, once you make that call with the update on the status of the case, I guarantee you get 5x more cases from whoever that person was.
You're absolutely right. There are a couple firms that I refer cases out to a number of different firms. And one, it's like, if I'm sending out cases for 3 months and I haven't gotten anything back, it's like, okay, we're going to pause. Let's see what they could do on these cases. And then we'll go back and send them more. Let's see if they could perform. But then a couple of them, they're just texting me. I don't even have to respond, text or email saying, by the way, this client, liability is clear, we're building it up, or this client, we just send out a demand, this client just got, this surgery recommended, and keeping me in the loop, like, okay, damn, good, something's happening with this, send them more. That's a great point. And this is all about PI, so I think it relates perfectly. Like, that is exactly what you want to see with personal injury law firms and referring cases.
Yeah, I actually was in one of those situations with a large law firm where one of these referring guys actually called him, and I heard the conversation, and the guy says, that case you gave me, we just cleared surgery for him, and he already had 2 shots of epidurals, and I think we're going to go break the policy and all of this. And the guy was just like, really? Wow. And they were talking about the big law firm who shouldn't even care about this one case, but he was so impressed. And I was sitting in that office when this conversation was happening. He called the guy in charge of his pre-lit and says, I need you to pump a lot more cases to this guy. And I was just witnessing the whole thing, just one single update on the case. He just got 10 more cases,
At least 100%.
So it really works that way. So again, that's so intake and the conversion. You've been challenging this has been a challenge for every single law firm. It starts by every attorney thinks they are going to be the intake forever. They are the intake person, and they're going to be bilingual 24/7 intaking, which it falls apart really fast because no attorney is prepared to do that. So tell us about how you set up your intake and you manage it and you set it up, and you how continuously scaling that part.
Yeah. First of all, I think if they're going to start, if anybody's going to start with VAs, I think this is a great place to start, having somebody available to help you with intake. But it kind of all starts with how I did it. Is we got to a certain point and we were at signing X amount of cases and we were kind of content, kind of working on some other stuff. But then at some point I made the decision, okay, I don't want to ever stop signing more and more personal injury cases. We have ways of getting them. We're good at it. We want to sign up as much as possible. So it kind of goes back to what I said. It's like at some point you have to get down and dirty with it and do a lot of it yourself. But like I said, you have to build that foundation, build that structure. Then to be able to scale it, you got to put a process and a system together, bring on VAs, bring people in to help with that and start delegating that. And I think that is the best way to scale that. Yeah, you have to get down and dirty and involved in the beginning, but everything we're talking about here today is about scaling. And if you want to scale, you have to be able to not do it all yourself. You got to be able to delegate that and build a process and a system around it.
Exactly. And having the system of giving your intakers the tools, tracking, monitoring what they do, how they do it, what's the exact conversion for the day, a week. Every time that me and Shawn meet, that's the first thing we cover. Is like, how many cases are we signed up this month? What's been the conversion rate? What has been the cost of client acquisition? From which lead source? All of that stuff, because that's essentially for a business going out and buying the raw goods so you can make it into a wrong product. I use this analogies about the factory. You're running a factory. A case coming in, the lead coming in is a raw goods that you bring in and you package it up over time to be shipped to the client. That's what you're going to look at it. So trying to wing it, trying to do it yourself. Some of this intake staff that Shawn has built, he built an amazing intake process and intake team that does this. And it's not as expensive as you think it is, because each of these virtual bilingual staff costs about $2,000 a month in a full-time basis. It only takes one case every 2 months to pay for one of these people, because it's inexpensive and they're dedicated to just do intake on some odd hours that you are not available. Like at nights, on the weekends, on the holidays, early mornings. So you need to have that infrastructure, but having it is not enough. It needs to be monitored, tracked very closely. I think Shawn loses sleep over this if he doesn't have those numbers at night where he sees exactly what my factory produced today. You
I
know,
need to know exactly how many cases we're at, how many we've referred out, what the cost per case is, all the things that, we've discussed. And look, just for everybody, how long did it take for me to kind of get to that point? You go through a lot of trial and error until you finally kind of get to a point. Now, I think it's never ending at optimizing it, but it does take some time. These are all the things that you could do to help, but like you want to be able to get that.
Exactly. Great. So now on the expanding side, this is another part of the exciting part of our conversations on a regular basis, because you create one revenue stream, just like any business does. So it happened to be PI, but even PI itself is diversified. So we always talk about, okay, we know cars hit each other. So that's good and dandy. And everybody's after those rear enders and those cars hitting each other. But then there's all these other areas of slip and fall, premise liabilities, going after ride sharing, delivery trucks, Uber Lyft folks, electric scooters, all kind of other stuff that you need to analyze, because it's all personal injury, but you want to focus to get the most out of the areas that are least saturated in the market, and build some specialties there, both in the way of the legal and marketing and direction. And I know that Shawn is always looking for a new avenue that is less saturated than the typical MVAs that is happening and everybody is chasing. What is the areas? And so tell us some of those areas that you tried out, you work on, you're sort of targeting.
So you have industries within PI that you could target that are less saturated, and kind of figure out what your niche is. I know people that they focus on dog bites. I know people that focus on slip and falls. I personally love slip and fall cases. I think I'm very good at it. I see liability where others don't. So there are niches within personal injury. Did you want to get into other practice areas diversification, or within PI?
I think within PI is the first consideration. You have to sort of exhaust one practice type. Every single category you need to cover, from, just like you said, the dog bite, slip and fall, going to a specific area of the state to build more emphasis. And I know a lot of people targeting like Fresno and Davis and Sacramento and so forth. So getting the most out of your original practice before you diversify into other practice areas.
Yeah, exactly. So you have the different practice areas. You have the different areas within PI. That's a good point. Then different locations. Then, if your business allows, you could kind of explore, other practice areas. But within PI, there is still, I even thought about it. It's like, this is so saturated. I'm over PI. It's so difficult. Like, I'm trying to sign up a client. There's another lawyer on the other line trying to sign them up. And it was like almost over it. But then when you recognize that, hey, there's maybe certain niches that, like, I had a friend that few years ago, he opened up an office in like this weird area. He didn't even live there, but he just started his firm and he opened up into this one little town. And I'm thinking, like, what the hell are you opening up an office there for? But then he like literally took over that little town. He was like all over the place, chiros, doctors, body shops. And I gave him a lot of credit for that. You could do that in different ways. Like, again, dog bites, premise cases, motorcycle accidents. If you do it the right way, I think it could be pretty effective.
Yeah, I actually had a client in San Jose who was working at the law firm in San Jose, and he wanted to open up his own office in San Jose. And he happened to live in Gilroy. And I said, why are you opening up in San Jose? It's so saturated. It's like LA. He goes, well, because I always been here working. He said, no, go open up your office where you live in Gilroy, where there's no other attorneys. So
Yeah.
you're going to own that town, just like you said. And now he has a very healthy practice that he's not have any competition. There's probably like 2 attorneys in Gilroy, and he owns the town. So all the medical providers, all these people are just referring to him, other law firms referring to him. So now he's a king of Gilroy, which is great. It's better than king of Gilroy or just be one of the runner-ups within the San Jose area. So that's definitely an advantage.
I think it's
So
good. Wait, hold on. When are you going to take me to San Jose and take me to all your tech companies, Hitachi, and
we actually should make a trip there. There's definitely a scene there that everybody needs to have some exposure in, especially when you're moving into AI and automations and technology. They should definitely do a San Jose trip to talk and see how this stuff is done and how it's so different than Southern California. I can't describe how different it is, but I will take you up on that for sure. So on the virtual staffing, the virtual staffing that we provide, and I know you use a lot of these resources to scale your law practice from beginning, and you're probably one of the bigger users of and utilizing this to be able to help scaling your practice. So this is just some list of stuff that we put together, from case research to client intake, which is, I believe, like 90% of your intake team is virtual staff. And you cover 24/7 bilingual, amazing intake process and so forth. But the demand writing is one of those hot things that now you don't have to. I always said demand is a major part of the operation, because demand, and again, I'm trying it with the different businesses, is like issuing an invoice. If you don't issue an invoice, you never get paid. And attorneys sit on the demand like he's going to get paid on his own. You have to write it, you have to send it out. There's always a backlog. So we in Legosoft, we have both medical demand writers, and we also do demands for the law firms, because you should never ever have a backlog of demands, because you need that money both for your expenses and 2, to put it back into the firm. So don't ever sit on the demand. Settlement negotiations, research, discoveries, medical record, big thing. Everybody talking about the case manager, they say, oh, I called this 5 chiros and orthos and MRIs, and I'm waiting for the response. Well, they're not going to respond in a timely manner. They are short of staff, just like you are. And you're just another law firm calling for the medical record. So you can take a number and go back in line. But again, it takes away from that case manager who's supposed to follow up with the treatments, encourage clients to continue with treatments and so forth. Instead, they're chasing some chiropractor in Marysville, California, So this is a VA's job to do regularly, be incentivized and trained to just chase this medical records and medical bills on an ongoing basis to make sure the case moves forward. So this is just some samples of that organization. I know we're probably getting close to run out of time. So just summarizing the KPIs that we talk about, creating the plans and the metrics and the goals and targets, and then explaining it to everybody, make sure everybody has a KPI. Shawn has an amazing set of API for the entire organization. Everybody in Shawn's firm is incentivized for the growth and the scaling of the practice, from intake, from client retentions, client referrals, settlements. Every progress within the firm is a teamwork, and everybody shares in it. Everybody is incentivized. Everybody is encouraged as part of the team to do that. Let's see. And I guess my team put a promotion in this proposal for essentially being able to book a demo and talk about getting some virtual staffing that the firm needs to scale and grow the law practice. These are some example of the position types that folks can scan the QR code and be able to set up a time to talk to one of our practice experts, both for virtual staffing and also practice growth. And anybody who wants to get a copy of this crazy books that starts with the stupid and goes AI, they can scan the code, and we'll be happy to send them a free copy of the books. And anything else that, Shawn, you'd like to conclude?
I'll say one thing. All those regarding virtual staff, all those positions, we have all of them in our firm, and you guys are a great resource for that. And you know how many we have with you guys, and we have a great group of virtual staff, I think. And I know that a lot of people, it's new to them, and they come and it was for us. And whether they want to hire somebody, and I think your team sends a lot of people my way for references. So show them this video going forward, where virtual staffing is awesome. It's great, very capable. What do you have to lose to give it a shot? And I always say, give yourself 3 months to get acquainted with virtual staffing, because it takes time to implement that into your firm. But once you're able to do it, I think it's extremely valuable.
Great. Thank you, Shawn. Thank you for joining this session. Always a pleasure talking to you, and wish you the best success and continued growth. And next time we talk, hopefully you have doubled your firm within that period.
Thank you, brother. I'll let everybody know.
Thank you.
Shawn, before you go, I actually want to ask a question. Douglas says it's really interesting how few attorneys ever do this by reaching out regularly to them about their cases that they have referred them. So basically none of the attorneys that they usually refer cases out get back in touch about updates or what's going on within that case. In that kind of situation, what do you recommend the attorneys do, or how to help them with that?
Every single firm that we refer cases, we do two things. We get referrals in, and we send referrals out. Every single firm we refer a case out to, in that referral email, when we start the relationship, we let them know that, hey, this is what it is. We're referring this case. It's getting added to this spreadsheet. We're going to follow up every 2 months, and we want to know exactly what the status of these cases are. And we expect an update for every single one. And we also say, hey, if we refer you over a case, the client is expecting to be contacted within 24 hours. And if referral sources can't follow that, we stop sending them cases. It's that simple. There are a ton of people that will follow that and are on top of it as much as we are. Same thing with us. If we're taking on referrals, we keep them updated every 2 months. Hey, this is your list of referrals to us. This is from other attorneys. This is the status. Client is in treatment. It's in demand. Case is settled. Or we let them know, hey, we had to drop this case because they went MIA. They didn't go into their medical treatment. So it's as simple as that. Again, it goes back to create a system to be able to do that, and just follow that and make sure they're following it also. I want to put it out there. We refer out a number of cases every single month, personal injury cases. And if anybody is looking to grow their practice, looking for more cases to take on, send me an email, and we'll check you out, and probably start sending you over some cases and see what you guys could do with it. So that's what we do.
Wonderful. That's a great gesture.
Perfect. Thank you everyone for joining this webinar.